Cava is Spain's most well-known and most exported sparkling wine, or vino espumoso. Interestingly, while Cava is a Denominación de Origen in its own right, unlike the wines from Spain's other DOs, Cava is not made in just one single geographical area. In fact, there are currently 7 different areas of Spain authorized to put DO Cava on the label of their sparkling wines, including Valencia, Aragon, Navarra, Rioja and Extremadura, as well as a host of towns and villages in central Catalunya, which is the region most people think of when they hear the word Cava. And in fact, about 95% of Spain's Cava does come from Catalunya, especially from the town of Sant Sadurní d'Anoia, which is about 40 kilometers inland from the city of Barcelona. So, Cava, Champagne, Prosecco, what's the difference? Well, technically speaking, they all fit into the sparkling wine category, which encompasses a whole range of different wines of varying degrees of sweetness, fizziness, and of course price, all made in lots of different places around the world. And like so-called still wines, sparkling wines too can be made from a range of different grapes depending on where the espumoso is being made. But more about that in a minute. But the key thing that differentiates all the various sparkling wines is how they are actually made. All sparkling wine involves the accumulation of gas under pressure, and the most common way of achieving this is by some kind of secondary fermentation, which basically creates carbon dioxide in the wine and makes it fizzy. Now, both Champagne and Cava are made using the so-called traditional method, or what the French like to call méthode traditionnelle. And the méthode traditionnelle is really the most meticulous approach because it involves secondary fermentation actually inside the bottle. This is composed of a first tirage stage when a mixture of yeast and sugar is added to the base wine, or the wine that's had a first fermentation. And that wine is then put into an extra strong bottle so it can withstand the pressure, and a cap, a crown cap like you get on a beer bottle, is put on top. These bottles of Cava then spend about 4 to 8 weeks in a horizontal position in the winery while they undergo a secondary fermentation inside the bottle until the desired pressure and level of fizz is reached. While all this is happening, the yeasts inside the bottle are gradually dying off, but they're remaining in contact with the wine, which is a really good thing. Because, in fact, the longer the wine is in contact with the dead yeast cells, the more complex the flavours it acquires, including the slightly biscuity or bready notes, which is often associated with quality champagne and Cava. Now, in Spain, for a sparkling wine to have DO Cava on the label, it has to spend a minimum of 9 months aging in the bottle, though some will spend much more. Once bottle aging is complete, the winemaker then has to remove the sediment from the bottle via a delicate process known as riddling. Now, riddling basically involves moving the bottle from the horizontal to a near vertical position, because that ensures that the sediment then collects in the neck of the bottle, ready for the all-important disgorgement phase. Disgorgement involves freezing the neck of the bottle where the sediment has accumulated, popping off the crown cap so that the frozen pellet of sediment can whiz out of the bottle, and then takes place the so-called dosage phase, which means an extra dash of wine and sugar syrup is added to the bottle, and then it is stoppered with a proper champagne or Cava cork and wrapped in the famous wire mesh or muzzle that champagne and Cava drinkers are familiar with. Now, if you've been listening so far, one question you're probably asking yourself is, what's the difference between Cava and that other famous or infamous sparkling wine from northeast Italy, Prosecco? Well, one of the main differences is how it is made. Unlike Cava or Champagne, Prosecco is made using the so-called tank method or the Charmat process, which is much cheaper much faster and much less labour intensive than the traditional method. As the name suggests, the tank method involves adding sugar and yeast to a base wine which is held in a pressure tank rather than in the bottle. The secondary fermentation then takes place in this tank, not the bottle, which means that all those intriguing flavours that develop in champagne or cava thanks to their time in the bottle in contact with the yeasts are absent from Prosecco, which is a lot more like still wine with bubbles added to it. We love the Gramona range of cavas from the Viña Torreblanca winery near Sant Sadurní d'Anoia in Catalunya. The Gramona Brut is made using the traditional blend of Xarel·lo, Macabeo and Parellada grapes, and it's aged in the bottle for a minimum of 15 months before commercial release. It's a lovely straw yellow in colour with a touch of green around the rim, bright and clear with lovely steady bubbles. It's aromatic with bags of fruit presence and a smooth, well-balanced palate. Gramona slips down beautifully on its own, but it also combines really well with a wide variety of dishes, from fish and seafood to lighter meats like pork or pasta and rice dishes. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon on Simply Spanish Wine.